On Monday, we started using the e-collar with Frosty. Although it is way too early to say that this will fix him or anything like that, it definitely has made a huge difference in the amount of control that we have over him. First off, surprisingly, he actually responds to the vibrate setting much more than he does to the shock setting. Probably part of it is the thickness of his fur, but the shock setting actually has to be pretty high for him to really care about it at all. At any lower or even medium levels, he pretty much ignores it. But when we use the vibrate setting, where the entire collar kind of vibrates, that always gets his attention, and he will immediately kind of look to me or stop whatever he's doing. So I've really mostly been using vibrate, which is fantastic, and it's definitely taken me a little while to get used to how to use the collar and the remote. The trainer has really kind of been stressing certain important pieces of the e-collar training. For example, how important it is to pair it with a verbal command, right? Because the collar is not going to be effective if Frosty doesn't understand that it is a correction, that is intentional. If I just kind of randomly use it whenever he's growling at someone, he could think that they're the one shocking him, or vibrating him, as the case may be. And so it's incredibly important to time it correctly and to make sure that I always give him a verbal command first and to tell him, no, stop what you're doing. And then if he doesn't respond to that, then use it, but to use it quickly, right? I can't say no and then, give him the buzz 15 seconds later. He won't realize that it's me. So the timing of it has been very important. And also I'm actually having to use a lot more positive reinforcement than I was using even before. So for example, if he is growling at someone, not only do we need to kind of use a little bit more force on the correction with saying no and then giving him a buzz if he doesn't respond, and then if he doesn't respond to that, giving him a shock. But as soon as he stops and calms down and directs his attention to me, we have to immediately give him positive encouragement and let him know, yes, like this is right, and start petting him, giving him treats, praising him. I think before, when we were in those stressful situations, I was giving him a lot of verbal corrections and saying no, telling him no, but when he stopped, I stopped. I didn't tell him that what he was doing was good. I just kind of expected that he should know, that if growling is bad, then not growling is good. But with the e-collar, the trainer was explaining to us that we need to be very, very explicit and make a very clear difference between if his teeth are out, if he's growling, we're giving corrections, we're using the collar if necessary, and then as soon as he stops and as soon as he directs his attention towards me, we need to immediately swap over to praise so that he understands, hey, if I'm being corrected, then the way to get from that to praise is just to, calm down and look at mom and stop whatever I'm doing. So that has been interesting, that I've actually been having to learn to use a lot more praise than I was using before, and to use it a lot more suddenly. So it's been a learning experience for me for sure, but it has been really effective in that, in general, he responds to commands better than he did. I only really used it for the first couple days in kind of day-to-day life when he was barking at something or refusing to obey or something. And after just a couple of days of that, he now pretty much always responds to my verbal command. So, for example, I've used the buzz one time today, and I didn't use it at all yesterday. So that's really encouraging to see that it may have, kind of a long-term effect even when we're not using it. That will be fantastic. And then, of course, the biggest victory was when we had a guest over during the week. It was someone who we've tried to introduce Frosty to probably at least 4 or 5 times, and it's always gone really poorly. For some reason, Frosty just really dislikes this person. He's very uncomfortable with them, and anytime they were in the same room, he would be barking, lunging, growling, just, losing it. And so, using the collar, we actually were able to have them be in the same room and Frosty be calm. And then we put Frosty in his crate and actually had our guests come and sit on the floor just 4 or 5 feet away, and Frosty did great. He only actually lashed out twice throughout the whole evening. Our friend was over for maybe an hour and a half, and Frosty only lashed out twice. And the first time I told him no, and then he didn't stop, so I used the vibrate and he stopped. And then the second time I just told him no and he immediately stopped, just for the verbal command. So that was absolutely huge. I'm really, really excited because we definitely have not had that kind of positive experience with a guest before. And so I'm very curious to see if it will be the same once we have, 2 or 3 people over at a time. I'm trying not to be too optimistic yet because I know that it will take time, and that he could, get used to it. He could decide that, the vibrate really isn't that big of a deal and just kind of get used to it. But for now, it seems like we're off to a really good start, and I'm very hopeful that it will have a really good result in the long term.